doesn't return. Tony Bertley, AlJazeera, Benghazi.
Graphic video has emerged of what appears to be a group of soldiers massacred in Libya. The video was posted on Facebook, so it cannot be independently verified, but the pictures appear to show the bodies of at least 21 men in military clothing bound and blindfolded. One seems to still be alive. The Facebook page says the video was first run on state TV, which identified the dead men as soldiers killed by anti-government fighters. But the Facebook posting says the men were actually killed by pro-government forces for refusing to fight. Barack Obama has again called on Gaddafi to step down, but the US president would not commit to imposing a no-fly zone and stressed the importance of giving the Libyan people a major say in the uprising.
There are a whole range of options, military and non-military, that we're examining, and we'll be making these decisions based on what's best for the Libyan people and how can we make sure that we're minimizing the harm to innocent civilians during this process. Throughout all this, we will continue to send the clear message that it's time for Gaddafi to go. One of the extraordinary successes of Egypt was the full ownership that the Egyptian people felt for that transformation. That has served the Egyptian people well. It serves U.S. interests well. We did not see anti-American sentiment arising out of that movement in Egypt precisely because they felt that we hadn't tried to engineer or impose a particular outcome, but rather they owned it.
In Egypt, meanwhile, pro-democracy campaigners are going ahead with a planned rally after Friday prayers, despite getting one of their wishes. That's the resignation of the unpopular Prime Minister Ahmed Shafiq on Thursday. Our correspondent, Ayman Mohyeddin, who's at a location overlooking Tahrir Square, says the protesters want to remain visible to ensure their full list of demands are met.
From the protesters' perspective, they want genuine and real change. They want sustainable change. They don't want cosmetic change. And so the concern was that after President Hosni Mubarak stepped down from power, the immediate changes that took place seemed somewhat cosmetic. It was still the same prime minister that served under former President Hosni Mubarak that continued to rule. And so they wanted to make sure that not only in terms of the prime minister's position being changed, but they also wanted to see the release of political prisoners. They want to see the Supreme Council take concrete steps to ensure a free and fair election. Has been used to govern Egypt for 30 years. So these are a long list of demands that they have. They want to keep the public protest visible so that they show and send a clear message to the rulers of this country that despite President Mubarak stepping down, it was about substantial change, not just simply cosmetic change.
Elsewhere in the Arab world, tens of thousands of people are readying to rally on Friday as they keep up the pressure for reforms. On Thursday in Yemen, anti-government protesters kept up their demands for President Ali Abdullah Saleh's immediate resignation. They've rejected a proposal by some opposition groups for Saleh to leave office by the end of this year. Clashes were reported in Bahrain on Thursday between Sunnis and Shias. Youths armed with sticks and batons attacked each other on the streets of Hamad, that's south of the capital. It's the first time the two sides have openly clashed since protests demanding constitutional reforms began 2 weeks ago. In Oman, thousands of people gathered on Thursday for a large pro-government rally. They gathered outside the palace of longtime ruler Sultan Qaboos bin Said in the northeastern town of Mannar. At the same time, pro-reform groups staged a 6th straight day of protests in the capital, Muscat. Hundreds of Tunisians have celebrated after the interim president announced elections on July the 24th. The polls are to elect a council to form a new constitution. But this also means Fouad Mebaza will stay in power beyond his March 15th deadline. Well, more from Libya after the break, including why this successful entrepreneur is willing to give up his business and his life in the US to return to Libya. Warm smiles mask growing tensions. The US and Mexican leaders meet to discuss cross-border drug violence. More on that. Stay with us.
Over the Sea of Japan, as cool conditions persist, you'll find something to whet your appetite.
Welcome back. We are looking at better conditions across most of northeastern parts of China as well as Japan over the next couple of days. As you can see on the satellite image, most of the clouds have really pushed off towards the east. That stormy weather is now in the Pacific. We are looking at high pressure dominating. That means fairly nice conditions, partly cloudy to mostly sunny conditions there. We are looking at Tokyo at 11 degrees, Seoul at 8. Overnight hours, they may get to like the -2, -3 degrees, but not too much of a problem there. As we make our way towards southern parts of China, you can see the satellite's really not showing too much there in the way of clouds, but it's really low clouds that we're worried about in the morning, especially Hong Kong seeing about 22 degrees. Clouds and fog are going to be the problem there, as well as over towards Hanoi, we're seeing 21, and showers are just going to be towards the east, but really down towards Manila. Heavy rain showers for parts of Luzon over the next couple of days could mean localized flooding in their forecast for Saturday as well as Sunday. In much of parts of India, we are looking at very warm temperatures. As you can see here, anywhere from 33 to 35 degrees is going to be the high temperature. So we are looking, humidity levels are starting to increase as well. So that means we are seeing that heat index coming in as well. Over towards parts of the Middle East, as well as the Arabian Peninsula, temperatures are mild, with Doha seeing about 24 and Abu Dhabi seeing 23.
Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
On the next Riz Khan Show, a barrier to peace. Former Pink Floyd star Roger Waters adds his voice to the calls for Israel to remove its wall in the West Bank. Riz Khan at this time on Al Jazeera.
A new world driven by new media.
This is a very peculiar moment in media history.
The Listening Post at this time on Al Jazeera.
Welcome back. A quick reminder of the top stories here on Al Jazeera. Rebel forces in eastern Libya are regrouping after airstrikes on Thursday failed to loosen their control of a key oil terminal at Brega. But the Reuters news agency is now reporting a new air attack on Friday. It's quoting witnesses who say a Libyan warplane dropped a bomb near a to confirm those reports. US President Barack Obama has called for the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi to go now, but while saying all options are on the table, Obama would not commit to enforcing a no-fly zone over Libya. Well, big protests are expected to kick off after Friday prayers. Let's speak to Hoda Abdelhamid. She's in Benghazi, where it all started. Hoda, just bring us up to date with the latest from Benghazi. What are we expecting to happen there today?
Well, we're expecting, as you said, a Friday prayer followed by a mass demonstration here. It is called the Friday of Rage, and it's really not to condemn and to remember the people who had died so far in this uprising, and also to show support for the rest of the country. A similar Friday of Rage protest is expected in Tripoli and in other cities in the western part of the country. I think this is a show of unity as well among all the Libyans who are protesting the government in Tripoli, to show that they're all east and west supporting each other, because one of the main messages coming out of Tripoli is that this uprising was an uprising based on tribal allegiances, that it was mostly in the east, that the east wanted to split the country. So I think what we're seeing really is a show of solidarity for those who, according to people living in the east, are still under occupation of the government, if you may want to call it like that, and showing them support that liberation can come.